Good evening, everyone. I'm here to introduce a hero of the Jewish people. So because we're running a little late, everyone knows him. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for a true hero of Israel and the Jewish people and of all of humanity, Natan Sharansky. So, Natan, last night I was having dinner with a rabbi in DC, and there's all these great books on the walls, these great Talmudic books, and out of the blue I cut this one children's book called An Extra Seat. And it turns out that the rabbi wrote a children's book on the Soviet Jewry movement, and the big star of the book is Natan Sharansky. So I asked the rabbi, please give me the book because I'm interviewing him tomorrow night. So I asked him, why did you write a children's book on the Soviet Jewry movement? He said, because this was one of the greatest moments in American Jewish history. And so many Jews in America have forgotten this story, especially the Jews of the new generation. So I wrote this book so I can read it to my children, and Jews can read it to their children. I'm a Sephardic Jew. I was living in Canada at the time. I didn't experience it personally, but I can tell you, I hear the echoes of that movement at a time when Jews were united like never before. So I want to ask you, Natan, first of all, do you see this as an opportunity to remind the new generation about this moment of Soviet Jewry? Do you agree that it's become a forgotten story? How do you see this?
Well, no doubt that the struggle for Soviet Jewry was probably the most successful, most powerful struggle of modern times. As a result of the struggle, 2 million Jews left Soviet Union. Soviet Union fell, stopped to exist, and all the world became much more free place. And all this the result of the fact that small group of Jews in the Soviet Union went back to their identity, started fighting to go to Israel, and millions of Jews all over the world immediately became part of this struggle, and that's what made for Soviet Union impossible to destroy us immediately, and that's what made in the end the Soviet Union to give up in the struggle. So, of course, it is extremely unfortunate that this story is, it is extremely unfortunate that American Jews themselves are not using this as the example to their children about what they, not what we in Soviet Union, what they, these students and housewives, as KGB called them. They were saying, who is supporting you? Bunch of students and housewives. But it was these hundreds of thousands of American students, American Jewish students, American Jewish housewives, American Jewish scientists and doctors who were fighting and defeated the Soviet Union. So when you're trying to tell to your children what you're proud of about your history, tell about your own struggle. That's what I'm saying all the time. But when you say that was the time when we were all united, that's a very dangerous statement. First of all, there is no such a thing that we are all united, and if you want to try to be all united, we will never reach it. Soviet Jewry movement was a typical Jewish movement when there were many Jewish organizations who fought against one another, who didn't like one another, who never were ready to share information with one another. I, as a spokesman, had to put these Jewish tourists at risk twice in order they'll secretly take information from Soviet Union and will bring them to the same street in New York, because these two organizations will never share information. And with all this, it was our blessing, because there were so many different groups, they could reach practically everybody in Jewish world. And for KGB, it was all one big anti-Soviet Zionist army of students and housewives. So that's exactly the model to which we have to try to reach both in Israel and in the world Jewry. We always will have different opinions. We always will have different organizations. Important thing is that we have one identity, we have one history, and we want to guarantee our mutual future.
So, I want to ask the audience a question. Natan Sharansky was liberated on February 11th, 1986. I think it would be an amazing idea if February 11th became a day of commemoration of the cause of Soviet Jewry, and we can announce it tonight.
No, it's awful idea. It's awful. It's our great family holiday, and we are not ready to give it up to anybody. No.
Okay, so we keep it in the family.
Okay.
A few months ago, I was sitting next to Adam Milstein at a wedding in L.A., and we're talking about his favorite subject, which is the IAC, and we brought up an interesting phrase. The word is Israeliness. So we started talking about Israeliness, this sort of secret sauce, this hard to describe idea of what Israelis bring to America. So Natan, I'd like to ask you if you can describe this idea of Israeliness, what Israelis bring to America, and then we can talk about the other direction.
Okay, first of all, I think this term Israeliness, if it is disconnected from the term Jewish, can be a very dangerous one. Because it shows that all your history begins from 1948, and suddenly we created a new nation, which is a new type of a Jew after thousands of years of slavery. In fact, there were some among our founding fathers, people who believed that now we are disconnecting ourselves from all the past and we don't need it. In fact, of course, we Israelis need our Jewish past, Jewish history, Jewish tradition, something that we take from our past and want to keep for the future. But nevertheless, no doubt Israeli brought something new in this world when near the synagogue in Moscow, I was told by one of American tourists that who saw our activity and said, "You really remind us Israelis, you're like Israeli." For me, it was as if he said, "You're the real world chess champion," because that was the highest thing that I could dream, to be like Israeli. Because Israeli, and I think I was practically in every Jewish community in the world, everywhere, definitely in Soviet Union, but even in the free America, Jews always have kind of double think. They are speaking at the same time thinking how the world reacts on their words because they are Jewish. I heard it many times on the campuses, whether somebody who's speaking very good about Israel or somebody who speaks very bad about Israel. They told me, we always remember that we are Jews, and that's why we have to think how people treat our words. I think Israel is the only place where Israeli Jews stopped thinking about it. They say exactly what they think. From this point, is kind of inner freedom which was never reached before by Jewish people. Now, Israelis have to make very quick decisions, and they're very good in it, in inventing things quickly, in taking responsibility for their life and for the life of their people and their country. And that's also felt. Now, on the other hand, so I really felt very proud to be called Israeli. On the other hand, I have to say that very often when I'm in Israel, I feel myself proud Jew of diaspora, because no doubt that in diaspora, whether in bad diaspora like Moscow and a very good diaspora like New York, in the diaspora, Jews, they are Jews by choice. Every day he can have a choice to continue to be Jew or not. From this point, it gives something very important in your mentality, that you have to think about your history, about your identity. You have to challenge yourself whether you want to be Jew or you don't want to be Jew. There is something very good in the fact that you're choosing it. Also, when we were Jews in diaspora, in the very bad diaspora in the Soviet Union, the message of the parents was very clear. You are Jew, that's why you must be number one in physics, or number one in mathematics, or number one in music, or number one in chess, but you have to be the best. And Jews for 1,000 years were trying to be the best in everything what they studied. I think I remember when in Israel my daughter started going to the school, I felt that they are not working as hard as we were. But I went to school, the teacher said, well, children have to feel safe from the life. So I think after 2,000 years of diaspora, we became a little bit tired of it, of being number one. So in Israel, I think what we have to take from diaspora is this passion of professional knowledge, of success, of learning more, knowing more. So if you look together, our Israeli feeling of freedom and responsibility and quick thinking and fearless, together with free choice of being Jewish, feeling of the community, feeling of responsibility of one for the other, that's what we have in diaspora. This encounter, these two parts of our identity can be very powerful. And that's why it's very important that this organization tries to do it.
Is your Jewish identity the core of who you are? Are you Jewish first and Israeli second, or Israeli first and Jewish second?
No, I have to say I was very glad in Israel when at one of our government meetings, then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon said, I am Jewish first, and only after this I am Israeli. And I want everybody at this table to feel like this. And I think a number of ministers felt very uncomfortable with this, because this feeling that we are proud Israelis was so strong that how it can be that suddenly we are becoming Jewish first. But again, Israeli without feeling of that you're part of Jewish history and roots and tradition and the struggle for our Jewish identity, without this, your Israelishness will become very shallow, very non-rooted. And that's why, yes, I feel it is very important, and I hope my colleagues from Israel-American organization also feel it. First of all, we have to be Jews, then we have to be proud Israelis, and after that, then if you want, you can be Americans.
So Israel is a deep expression of your Judaism.
Yeah, well, there is still a lot to improve, but yes, Israel is a deep expression of my Judaism.
Okay, so let's talk about the divisions between the two communities, between the Jews in Israel and the Jews in America. One of the things that has been divisive has been that Reform and conservative, these non-Orthodox streams in America, are taken very seriously, which is not the case in Israel, and the chief rabbinate has done some things that have sort of disrespected, if you will, the non-Orthodox streams in America, including the situation at the Kotel, which is to create an egalitarian space. I know that you worked on the compromise for many years. Now, when is that going to happen?
Well, I have to say that there is a very serious problem. Sometimes they say that we are one people divided by one religion, meaning that Jews of diaspora and Jews of Israel. And I'm very glad, by the way, and I'm very proud that Jewish Agency has a very special place, because it is the only Jewish organization, the only place, I would say, in the world where now our round table are sitting representatives of the government, representatives of the opposition, representatives of the world Jewry, and representatives of Orthodox, Reformed, and conservative Jewry, and are taking decisions together. There is no such a place where we can really discuss our mutual problems except from Jewish Agency. And maybe because of this, 3.5 years ago, Prime Minister called me and said, Natan, please try to do something. We have to overcome this awful situation when Kotel, the most sacred place for all the Jews of the world, turned into the place of battles. And that's how we started our negotiations, which continued for 3.5 years. For the first time, representatives of Prime Minister's office and representatives of the streams were sitting together for 3.5 years discussing this compromise, which in the end was accepted. And not only accepted, it was approved by the government. And nevertheless, it's still not implemented. And we have to do everything that it will be implemented. During these negotiations, finally, the leaders of Israel realized that Reformed and Conservative Jewry, it's not small sect, that it's huge part of American Jewry. And I hope that, and the leaders of Reformed and Conservative understood that Orthodoxy has a very important role in Israel and should continue to play this important role together with the streams. And that is our big battle. We have some successes. Still a lot has to be done in order every Jew will feel himself or herself comfortable in Israel, not only as a person, as a Jew, but together with his community and with his synagogue.
Do you see any hope for separation of synagogue and state in Israel? Last week, there was a situation where the chief rabbinate rejected Orthodox conversion approved by the Bet Din of America and the RCA, which is sort of an unfortunate development. But do you see any hope in the future to bridge these gaps?
Well, it was absolutely ridiculous decision. Especially, they chose a very wrong rabbi for this decision, Rav Lukstein, I know him from 1975 when he came to us to Moscow, but one of the leaders of the Orthodox, Zionist Orthodox community of the United States of America, and they decided that they have to challenge his conversions. I think that's one of the things which we definitely will have to overcome in Israel and in Jewish world. No authority in Jewish world cannot challenge the conversion of the other rabbi. It was never before in our history. We were all open to all the rabbis who have the right to do conversions. It has to stay this way, and Israel should not try to challenge it.
Amen. One more question for Natan. You started 7.5 years ago at the agency. You put a big focus on Jewish identity. Tell us whether you accomplished your objectives.
Well, yes, when I came, there was belief that the mandate of Jewish Agency is to bring as many Jews as possible, desirable all the Jews. And when I said that the most important thing is to strengthen our Jewish identity, it was viewed by some as anti-Zionist act, how it can be that you're against Aliyah. So I want to make clear, I think Aliyah is the best thing in the world. I want every Jew to enjoy the Aliyah. I become very emotional each time when I welcome another airplane with Alim. Each of them is closing 1,000 years circle of all his people who were praying for this Aliyah. It's a great thing, Aliyah. But I don't think that our role to be commissar of Zionism and to give marching orders to all the Jewry, go to Israel. I think it's a very personal decision. We have to help them by strengthening their Jewish identity. And we have to help to fight against assimilation by strengthening Jewish identity. And so we have to bring as many projects as possible of Israeli experiences programs, of our shlichim. We have great shlichim, some of them here on the campuses and other places, where they're trying to bring Israel to Jewish world. Seminars, summer camps, you name it. All this must have one aim: to strengthen our Jewish family, to strengthen our connection to our roots, to our tradition, to our family, to our community, and to the state of Israel, and let Jews, each of them, to decide whether he goes on Aliyah or whether he becomes active in his or her own community, whether he gives to his Jewish children Jewish education, and so on. We can only help. And I'm very glad that really we went through big reform in Jewish Agency, and as a result today, we have one center strengthening our Jewish family, and practically in every city we have a number of shlichim from different youth movements, different political movements, the federation in campuses, all types of them. They are all one team which is representing Israel and making Israel closer to Jewish people.
Well, you have been a great hero to the Jewish family, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Natan, God bless you. Let's give it up for Natan Sharansky.